Hola señores, estamos ya en los últimos momentos de esta clase de español. Esto es el último tema que tenemos que tratar en el español 2 y en el capítulo 10. No es algo muy difícil, otra vez, como siempre digo, pero sí que es muy importante, muy importante. Vamos a hablar de los mandatos formales en español. Cuando hablamos de los mandatos, no queremos decir, eso no significa que estamos hablando de usar un látigo y de decirle a alguien que tenga que hacer algo con mucha fuerza. Los mandatos son algo que se pueden usar bastante suavemente y sin rencor. No son cosas de fuerza, pero sí es su propia cosa. Okay, today we're going to be talking about formal commands. Formal commands, as I often say with things that we're doing in this class, are not that difficult. They are incredibly important. You're going to see that they'll be used quite a bit, and they're also going to be something important to learn if you're going to continue studying Spanish, because they'll lead into some other very important topics. So, formal commands, though the name is command, it can be a little bit misleading. Commands does not mean that we're cracking a whip and that we're yelling at somebody. Commands can be something as simple as please take a seat, or please come in, or here, eat. Okay, these don't have to be mean-spirited, strong commands. The idea of a command is that we have a specific way of forming verbs in Spanish that is used for these things where we're telling someone to do something. Okay, what we're looking at today are formal commands, so we're looking at the commands that you'd use for usted or for ustedes. That means for most of the world, these are the commands you would use to speak to any group of people. I didn't use ustedes form for most of the world, not in Spain. Spain, it would be to speak to a group of people formally. So we have that ustedes form to speak to any group of people in most of the world, and then the usted form to speak to people formally. Okay? Forming commands, you'll see, is quite simple. It may necessitate, as they say in Spanish, que cambies el chip. You may need to change your chip a little bit to get your head around the way the verbs will look, but it's nothing too crazy. Basically, here's what we do. To form a command in Spanish, you're going to take a verb, such as hablar. You're going to put it into the yo form of the present indicative. So the thing we learned all the way back in chapter 2 or whatever chapter it was, how to conjugate an AR verb. Right? We're putting it into the present indicative, the normal present tense form. We have hablo. We're going to cut off the O, and we're going to replace it with what we call the opposite vowel. Meaning if it's an AR verb, normally the endings are composed of A's, right? They're based on the letter A. So for an AR verb, we're going to put an E there, as if it were an ER verb. Okay, so hable. Hable would be the usted command, meaning speak. The ustedes form will simply have an N at the end. So hable would be the ustedes form. So that's you all speak. For ER and IR verbs, we'll do the exact opposite. So we're going to have the verb, we'll conjugate it and put it into the yo form of the present tense. We'll take off the O, and we'll replace it with the opposite vowel, which in the case of ER and IR verbs will be an A. So coma means eat, as in I'm telling someone eat. The ustedes form will simply have an N, coman. Okay? This is a rule that you need to follow even through verbs that are irregular in the yo form. And so it's really important you do it that way. A lot of times students will look at this and say, well, why should I follow this convoluted process when I could have just taken off the AR, and put an E on there? That is true for many verbs. But look how this works, for example. The verb decir, to say, the way that we form the command form is, once again, we put it to the yo form, which will be the irregular digo. We cut off the O, and then we have our command form of diga. Diga in the plural, digan. If we didn't follow the rules on that, we'd end up with deca. Okay, so it's important to put it in the yo form, cut off the O, and then put the opposite vowel on. Here's another example of an irregular one. Conocer, we have conozco, and then conozca or conozcan, for the ustedes form. Okay? There are 4 irregulars that we need to look at. Come with me over here. Dar will have these 2 forms, de and den. It's irregular because the verb doesn't end in an O, so we can't just cut off an O. Estar, same issue. Same issue with all of these, really. So we'd have esté and estén. Ser will have sea and sean, and ir will have vaya and vayan. Okay? So these are the 4 irregulars that you need to be concerned with. Now, there's really not much else to say. Let me get back over to here. Not much else to say, really. Right? Like I said, these are forms that we use to tell someone to do something. It does not have to be mean-spirited. This is just as easy as saying, please come in. We'd use one of these forms. So I would say entre. Okay? For the verb entrar, I would say entre. A couple other things to pay attention to. The negative formal commands. So if I want to say don't speak, negative formal commands are quite simple. We just put a no before them. So no hable is don't speak. No hablen is don't speak to a group of people. Okay? So that's very simple. When we use commands with object pronouns, direct or indirect object pronouns, or reflexives, for affirmative commands, they'll always come after the command, and for negative commands, they'll always come before the command. So to give you an example, if I want to say it, let's say dígalo. Okay, and it's important that we maintain our original accent. So we'll have to put an accent mark there because we still want it to sound like that. Dígalo. Okay, so we'll put an accent mark there. So that would be say it. This would be say eat it. Cómalo. Notice we're attaching our pronoun to the verb. A negative, it would come before it. So don't say it would be no lo diga. Okay, and don't eat it would be no lo coma. And that's basically the entire topic in a nutshell. Okay, so remember, it's very important we follow all these rules. Take your verb, put it into the yo form of the present tense, cut off the O, and replace it with the opposite vowel. So for ARs, that's going to be an E, and for ERs and IRs, that's going to be an A. Y eso es todo, señores. Mucha suerte. Ha sido un placer enseñaros. Espero que sigan estudiando el español. Espero que tengan mucho éxito en todo lo que hacen. Y ya nos veremos otro día. Gracias.